Hello, my name is Pedro Moreira da Silva, and I'm a staff product designer working in the source code group of the create stage of GitLab. And today I'd like to show you a little bit of the insights and themes that we uncovered in the latest research for the code review category when we were validating its maturity. So what is the maturity of a category in GitLab? So the product is divided into several stages: manage, plan, create, and so on. And inside of each stage, there are a number of different categories where all of the different functionalities or features fit into. In this case, I'm working in the create stage, and I work specifically with two of these categories: code review and source code management. And we decided to validate the lovable maturity of code review. You see here with this little heart icon, and each each category has its own maturity level with this legend. I will link to this page and other resources as we go through this short video, and that you can look into later. So yeah, we set to validate if the category was actually lovable or not. And to do this, we went through this process called Category Maturity Scorecards. We have a page dedicated to this, and you can look through it if you want on your own time. But in essence, this is a summative evaluation where we take external users of GitLab and run them through a series of scenarios and evaluate their performance against the product and against the features and workflows that, in this case, the code review category supports. And that would give us a final maturity score to update this maturity page. As a result of these scorecards, we uncovered a series of findings and insights, and out of those we wrote and are linked to existing recommendations in this issue, which I'll also link to in the description of the video. And you can see here all of the linked issues, and each one of these is a recommendation, an actionable insight, something that we can do today, something that we can explore today to improve the product and to improve the maturity of the code review category. I'd like to focus today on the three big themes that came out of the research. So this is the insights summary card, which I'll also link to in the description. And there are three main themes. The first one is navigation and settings. The second one is the merge request UI. And the third one is the code owner features, specifically the code owner approvals feature. So let's start first by navigation and settings being overwhelming and confusing. So there were a number of things that we discovered here. And basically, to give you a sense of what this looks like, in research, when we asked users to perform or to complete a specific scenario, they usually click through all of these different or many of these different items in the navigation and just didn't know where to go because there was just so many options. And so this is, if we look at Hick's law, the time that users spent looking at different options increases with the number of those options. So they kind of froze and didn't know where to go. Another thing that we noticed was that sometimes when we asked them, for example, to set up approvals for merge requests, try to set those directly in the features. So they would click merge requests, they would go into the list of merge requests, and they would try to find a button here somewhere that would link them to the settings or the preferences of this feature. So this is a pattern that we saw over and over again of users trying to set the preferences or change settings in the features themselves. Another thing is related to the settings themselves, specifically the placement of merge request approval settings, and also how do repository and merge request policy settings are related, and how do you navigate to them? And what does this mean in practice? So today, when you go to settings general in the project level, you see all of these different things like naming, topics and avatar, visibility, project features, permissions, and then you have the merge request settings, which is one of the most important features of GitLab. Doesn't have its own dedicated section. It's inside general, and users need to go here and scroll down through this and find the merge request approvals. So this was a pain point, and many users took more time than we expected to find this. So there's a possibility would be to elevate all of these merge request related settings into their own section. The other thing is the relationship between these settings, the merge request and merge request approvals, with another area of the settings, which is the repository. And the repository and the merge requests have a lot in common, and they interact throughout the DevOps lifecycle. And specifically here, one of the most important settings that changes the merge request behavior a lot is the protected branches. And also protected tags, but usually people set up the protected branches, and people fail to see the relationship and to find these settings because they're so far apart. They're in completely different areas of the settings. And in one of these scenarios, we asked users to find this setting, this little toggle button here that says code owner approval, so that you would enforce code owner approvals for a specific branch. But I'll talk about this in a minute. So this was the first big theme that we saw, was navigation and settings being overwhelming and confusing. And we have a series of actionable insights that we can work on today. The second theme is the merge request UI being cluttered. So what does this mean in practice? In general, users found the merge request review page too cluttered. So this is this page that you see here, this tab, and they just found it too cluttered to find and perform the basic tasks in a code review scenario. Two specific things here. One of them was they found it hard to find the approve button. So they navigated even across the tabs in the merge request looking for the approve button, or here in this top area, or here with these buttons. And so it's mixed in the middle of the rest of the content of the merge request page. And so the users found it difficult to find. One other thing, a very curious insight, was that when we asked users to signal that the merge request was still worked on, many of them either applied a label saying work in progress or to do or blocked or something like that. And some of them even went as far as closing the merge request, leaving a comment saying that it's still in progress, and then reopening the merge request once it was ready to be reviewed or to be checked out by someone else. And so one of the insights was to elevate and make a draft feature more discoverable. So it's this new button that we have here saying mark as drafts or mark as ready. This was a direct recommendation and something that we've already fixed in the milestone that came right after this research. So this is one of the things that we have already improved, and we hope that this is much more visible way for people to signal that a merge request is still in progress. Regarding the UI being cluttered, a lot of things that we have to look into. There isn't one specific actionable thing that we can do. It's a series of things, and we need to take a step back to look at the whole UI in itself. The third theme is the code owner features not being intuitive, and there are a lot of actionable insights here. Some of them came as a result of analyzing and looking at users' behavior and not necessarily the things that that they failed to do in the scenarios, or succeeded in the scenarios. So again, we see here the improving of the organization, repository, and merge request policy settings, and cross-linking the approvals and protected branches settings, which is what I was just showing you before. So we have in the general settings, the merge request approvals, but then if you want to set another kind of approval, the code owner approvals, that are linked to the file paths and people that are responsible for specific files in the repository, those settings are not here at all. We have this little information alert saying that the require approval from code owner setting was moved to protected branches, but in our experience in the research, all of the users either didn't read this, or if they read, they just close it immediately. So it didn't make any use of having this alert here. And we have those settings in the settings repository section for protected branches, and those are completely separate, as you can see from the regular approvals. And it's this little toggle that you need to click here to enable this amazing functionality. Something more specific about the code owners was just the understanding of what the code owners file does. And we noticed that when we asked users to find this setting to enable the code owner approvals, most of them went to the code owner's file or to a file that was managed by the code owners, and they tried to find, while looking at this code owner's file that has the file paths and the people that are responsible for the file paths, the code owners, they tried to look for buttons or settings here that would allow them to enable the approvals, right? Because this is very similar to the experience of the merge request approvals. If you want to set a merge request approval rule, you can create one. And once it's created, you can then change the number of approvals required for this rule, right? And you can even make it optional by setting this number to 0. And so users try to do the same thing in the code owners file, looking at how they can require what they just edited, right? So if I'm adding a new rule, how can I then require it or make it enforceable for a specific branch? There are other insights that we came up with to address this confusion. One thing specific that I'd like to highlight is the documentation. So this scenario of enabling the setting, the code owner approval, was very likely the longest scenario where users spend their time in the research. And while trying to find this, some of them even went and searched the web for some documentation, some help, some guidance to help them find their way. And a lot of them ended up on this page, the code owners page, or the merge request approvals documentation page. And in these documentation pages, it was very difficult for them to find anything useful. They spent a lot of time reading through this, trying to look at the headings. Some of them even found this heading saying approvals by code owners. They read through all of this, but they didn't understand how they would be able to find the right setting, right? And the same thing in the merge request approvals. They went through all of this. They found this merge requests, the code owners as eligible approvers heading. And here it says if you add a code owners repository, the owners will become eligible approvers. And then, so it doesn't say if it's enabled, if it's not enabled. And the key here is just this little link at the bottom that actually makes this feature much more powerful. And it says, alternatively, you can require code owner approvals for protected branches. And the same thing exists in the code owners documentation page. If you look very closely, it's this one, as required approvers for protected branches. And this little link and this little point here unlocks the whole purpose or most of the power of this feature. And if you click here, you would then go into this page where it explains to you how you can require the code owner approval. So yeah, this was a very quick overview of the 3 main themes that came out of the code review category maturity scorecard. And yeah, this was done in the last financial quarter for 21. And yeah, I'm looking forward to your questions, comments, and yeah, feel free to hit me up. And yeah, thank you for watching.